The morning the billionaire slapped a tray of coffee out of a helper's hands, everyone in the mansion learned the same rule: no one stayed long under her roof. But no one expected that the same woman who hated every helper would one day gently kiss a quiet single dad helper on the cheek. Before we dive into this emotional story of pride, pain, and unexpected love, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that sometimes the coldest hearts hide the deepest wounds, and the smallest acts of kindness can change everything. Now let's begin. The mansion on Hillcrest Avenue was beautiful, but no one who worked there ever called it home. White marble floors stretched across the grand hall. Tall glass windows overlooked manicured gardens. Expensive paintings hung on the walls like silent witnesses to the tension that filled the air every single day. At the center of it all was Evelyn Harrow. At only 38, Evelyn was one of the wealthiest tech entrepreneurs in the country. She had built a billion-dollar software empire from nothing, turning sleepless nights and ruthless determination into unimaginable success. But wealth had not brought warmth into her life. Evelyn had a reputation among domestic agencies that spread like wildfire: don't send your helpers there. Some lasted a week, some lasted a day, one poor woman lasted only 2 hours. Evelyn wasn't cruel for entertainment. She simply believed helpers were careless, dishonest, and unreliable. In her mind, they were people who would always disappoint her. And disappointment was something she refused to tolerate. "Why is this glass here?" she snapped one morning, pointing at a crystal tumbler left on a table. I thought you finished with it, ma'am," the housekeeper stammered. "Thinking isn't your job. Cleaning is." The housekeeper left that same afternoon. The staff turnover became so frequent that agencies started sending temporary workers. One of them was Daniel Reyes. Daniel was 32, quiet, and polite. Unlike most helpers, he wasn't someone trying to make a career out of domestic work. He was a father, a single father. 3 years earlier, Daniel had lost his wife, Sophia, to a sudden illness. Since then, he had been raising their 7-year-old daughter Lily alone. Every job he took was simply a way to keep food on the table and Lily in school. Daniel worked nights at a warehouse and took daytime temporary jobs wherever he could find them. When the agency told him about the mansion job, they warned him carefully. "The owner is difficult," the agent said. "No one stays long." Daniel just smiled tiredly. "I don't need long," he said. "Just enough." The first day Daniel arrived, he noticed something strange. The house was spotless. Despite the constant hiring and firing, every surface gleamed. It was clear Evelyn demanded perfection. Daniel was assigned basic maintenance tasks: organizing storage, repairing small things around the house. He worked quietly, never rushing, never complaining. And unlike the others, he didn't try to avoid Evelyn. When she walked through a room, the staff usually froze like statues. Daniel simply nodded respectfully and continued working. The first time Evelyn really noticed him was during a storm. Rain pounded against the windows that evening, lightning flashing across the dark sky. One of the older workers had accidentally left the garden gate open, and the wind had blown it wide. Evelyn stood by the window, irritated. "These people can't even close a gate," she muttered. Before she could call anyone, Daniel walked outside into the rain. He secured the gate, tied it properly, and checked the fence without being asked. When he came back inside, soaked but calm, Evelyn watched him carefully. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "It needed to be done," Daniel replied. Then he went back to work. That answer stayed in Evelyn's mind longer than she expected. Over the next few days, she began noticing other things. Daniel never rushed through tasks. He fixed things that weren't even on his list. He greeted everyone politely, even the workers who expected him to quit soon. And every afternoon at exactly 4, he stepped outside for a short phone call. One day Evelyn overheard him. "Did you finish your homework, Lily?" His voice softened in a way Evelyn had never heard before. "Good girl. Daddy will bring your favorite noodles tonight." Evelyn walked away before he noticed her listening. That evening, curiosity tugged at her. "Do you have a child?" she asked abruptly when Daniel returned inside. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "A daughter. Who watches her while you work?" "My neighbor," he replied. "She's very kind." Evelyn nodded without another word, but something about the conversation lingered in her chest. Days turned into a week. A week turned into 2. Daniel was still there. This surprised everyone, but what surprised them even more was that Evelyn hadn't fired him. One afternoon something unexpected happened. Evelyn was working late in her office when she suddenly felt dizzy. Her vision blurred slightly, and she grabbed the edge of the desk. Daniel happened to be walking past the open door. "Ma'am," she tried to wave him away. "I'm fine," but Daniel stepped inside anyway. "You look pale," he said calmly. "Have you eaten today?" Evelyn frowned. "I don't need supervision." "Of course not," Daniel said gently. Then he walked to the kitchen. 10 minutes later he returned with a glass of water and a small bowl of soup. "You can fire me after," he said simply. "But please eat first." Evelyn stared at him. No one had spoken to her like that in years. No fear, no flattery, just concern. Slowly, she took the spoon. That moment quietly shifted something between them. After that day, Evelyn began speaking to Daniel more often. Small conversations, short questions. She learned about Lily, about Sophia, about the long nights Daniel worked to support his daughter. For the first time in years, Evelyn felt something she had forgotten. Respect. Weeks later, something happened that changed everything. One afternoon Daniel brought Lily with him briefly while picking up his paycheck. The neighbor who usually watched her had an emergency. Lily stood shyly near the doorway holding a small drawing. Evelyn stepped into the hall and noticed her. "Who is this?" she asked. "My daughter," Daniel said nervously. "I apologize. She'll only be here a minute." But Lily looked up at Evelyn with bright eyes. "I drew something," she said. The drawing showed a big house, and 3 stick figures. One was Daniel, one was Lily, and one had long hair. "That's you," Lily said. Evelyn blinked. "Why me?" "Daddy says you're not mean," Lily said innocently. "Just sad." The hallway went completely silent. Daniel's face turned pale. "I'm so sorry." But Evelyn raised a hand. She looked down at the drawing again. Something inside her cracked open. Memories she had buried long ago began rising. Lonely childhood days, parents who cared more about business than love, years spent building walls around her heart. And suddenly, tears filled her eyes. Before anyone could react, Evelyn knelt down in front of Lily. "Thank you for the drawing," she whispered. Then she stood and turned toward Daniel. Her voice trembled slightly. "All the helpers I've had, I thought they only worked for money." Daniel said nothing. "But you," she continued quietly, "you work for someone you love." For a moment neither of them moved. Then Evelyn did something no one in the mansion had ever seen before. She stepped forward, and gently kissed Daniel on the cheek. Not romantic, not dramatic, just gratitude. The room went silent, and in that moment, the woman who hated every helper finally showed her heart. From that day on, the mansion began to feel different. Warmer, kinder, because sometimes the person who seems the coldest is simply waiting for someone patient enough to see the pain behind their walls. And sometimes all it takes to change a life is a little kindness, a child's honesty, and a father who refuses to give up. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this. Because the world always needs more reminders that compassion can melt even the hardest hearts. Heart.